it's a beautiful day outside. It's quite a waste that it's so windy out. But this actually is a great opportunity for me. I think I'm gonna go back to that park that I go to usually and do a wind gust test. It is really windy out here. I mean, the car is all over the road, and I'm driving a car. Imagine a van, or imagine some of these big trucks, and now I see why the traffic, people are driving at, you know, 80, 70 kilometers an hour down the road. I think these big trucks are having a real problem staying on the road. Well, the good news is that that same block of clouds that was up at the conservation center is down here as well. At least that means you can see up in the air, the clouds are starting to come in. Wind's really picked up here. So what I'd like to do is to test the drone in a heavy wind condition. So I'm going to set this down. I'm going to go give it a little whirl. I just want to see what it does in this kind of condition. Okay, let's just leave it right here, see what it does. Wind's not too bad right now. There we go, some gusts. Wind gusts seem to, its altitude is controlled by a barometer inside it, and of course that's to do with the change in pressure of the air. Wind gust doesn't help that at all, because if the wind is changing pressure, then it thinks it's going higher or lower, so that's why it's kind of bobbing up and down a bit. With the barometer. Whoa. Let's send it on a mission for 3 minutes. We're almost at the center spot from before. And go. So it's going to go up to over to here. And it's going to turn around and point down. And there we are. Off it goes, nice and slowly. Look at the lean on that. That's as high up as she goes. Now she's on her way back. There it is. Wow, look at the tilt there. Staying right on course though. Nice and slow. And now it goes across and it's going to stop right about there. There it goes. Now, let's fly it in a little bit closer. In this particular test, I increased the speed to the maximum speed, which was 54 kilometers an hour. I instructed it to run down the middle of the field, passing close by me, keeping me as the center of attention, then pass right over my head. And the idea for this was to find out if the gimbal could keep up with, and the drone was able to keep up with the rotation. On the second part of the leg, it was to fly right over me, spin around, pan down, and do this all simultaneously at 54 kilometers an hour. It actually failed in the second part of it, but that actually wouldn't surprise me because it's quite a complex task and asking quite a bit of the drone. In this test, I was going to turn the box off, which means a complete signal loss. This could happen for a various number of reasons, and I wanted to make sure that it completed its mission and that it was able to come back home when it was done. However, I had to abort partway through. I probably shouldn't have done it on such a low flyover, and this was the result. Well, I turned the box off, and I've done this route a handful of times now. As I came across there, though, from the side, it dropped dramatically in height. It was only about knee height, and it was flying across the ground, and I really thought that was a bit too low. I switched the box back on to try and increase the altitude. I probably shouldn't have tried it on something that was so low. We're testing shutting the box off and a return to home. I am interested in testing the return to home, but I think I need to do it at a much higher altitude. So I'm going to clean off the drone a bit. It looks all right, but a little bit of mud. Maybe this isn't the optimal time to be testing it. I really should have full power of everything, and if I need to regain control, yeah, let's do this another day. Another day with another battery pack. So let's clean this puppy up. I should bring a rag with me, actually. Paper towels. I did flip this thing over once. I was actually standing there with Carlos, and when I flipped it over, I didn't know this, but the motors are still trying to run, still trying to recover itself. So Carlos picked it up, and I didn't realize, but then the blade started spinning. I noticed that this time as well. When it crashed down and flipped over, the blades were still trying to go. So I powered down and it did turn off, and then I was able to pick it up. I believe if I had picked it up, that it would have tried to fly again. My cell phone's almost dead. I'm sure this camera is almost dead. This battery pack is not dead, but I think it's time to call it a day. I think these birds are trying to tell me something. Get off my property, baby. I have to say, I am really in love with this Manfrotto bag. It seems to hold everything I need. It's easy to swing over the shoulder, and it packs all my stuff away. I still have plenty of room for a lot more of my stuff, but more importantly, it does keep things well protected. All in all, I think today was a great test. We did. So I'm back home, and I was doing the edits for the videos that I took today, and I noticed it really is difficult to hear, and I'm watching the trees in the background, and they're really going. And I'm thinking to myself, the girl told me it was 20 kilometers an hour, and I went to the website and it said 24 kilometers an hour. Now, the drone is supposed to travel, 45 miles an hour. What is that in kilometers? I actually took a look at the specs, and they rate it as meters per second, which doesn't help anybody. It is rated at 16 meters per second in ATTI mode. ATTI mode is when you take it over manually. However, the program I'm using allows me to actually max it out if I wanted. 16 meters per second equals 57 kilometers per hour. So when I had it going across and over my head, it was really sailing. So that sort of gives you a little bit of a perspective there. Now, the reality is the machine was bouncing around a bit. It did have some problems with the air because of the turbulence and because of wind pressure. It has a barometric measure for height, and the height was certainly thrown off, and especially when there was these big wind gusts that were coming up. The problem is the wind gusts were not coming in at 24 kilometers an hour. I noticed this article here that was on the Toronto website. High winds hit Toronto as weather statements and warnings cover southern Ontario with wind gusts of more than 70 kilometers an hour. Well, that kind of is understandable. It was brutal out there, and the reality is I shouldn't have been out flying because it was way too gusty. But the fact of the matter is the drone handled like a champ. I'm really impressed with it. It was very stable, especially considering that much. At 20 kilometers an hour, I'm thinking, well, that's fairly average. If you have a warm summer's day, it's going to have a breeze. You're going to have to deal with that. And I was okay with the fact that it performed all right. But now that I hear that it's 80 kilometers an hour or 70 kilometers an hour wind gust, that's absolutely incredible. I think it performed like a champ. Really stable, really solid. I'm very impressed with it, and can't wait to start using this on a more regular basis. Anyway, for now, the camera had died as I was finishing up out there. As cameras do, they always die at the wrong time. So I thought I'd close off, and now that I've taken a look at these edits, and now that I'm back to the office, it's kind of cool to see what's going on. Anyway, take care. Have a great day.